Welcome, everybody, to our June 2025 Animal Reiki Talk. I come here every month, the first Tuesday of the month, to talk to you guys about something in the world of Animal Reiki. And so tonight I'm going to be talking about how to find your voice for animals using Animal Reiki. So, kind of a fun topic. And then I'll open it up to you guys for anyone who wants to share or have questions for me. And then, as always, we will close our evening tonight with an animal Reiki circle, healing circle. I'll lead you in a short meditation. We'll offer animal Reiki for the animals on our minds and hearts tonight. So, June, our theme is finding your voice. And I wrote a blog on this topic on my website, animalreikisource.com. So you can check that out there. But I want to talk about it with you guys tonight. I think this is such an important topic. I think that finding our voice for animals helps put us on the path of our calling and put us in alignment with our soul purpose of wanting to help the animals in our lives. We can do that with words, can't we? We can speak in a language that is heard by other humans. And so finding our voice to help animals, I feel in a lot of different ways is really important. And so tonight I'm going to talk about why it's important to me and why I think it should be important to all of us. We'll talk about some obstacles to finding your voice, and then we'll talk about some ways that we can speak compassionately and how our animal Reiki practice supports us in all of this. So, to me, when I talk about finding your voice for animals, I love this Howard Thurman quote: "Do not be silent. There is no limit to the power that may be released through you." Our voice in this world is very powerful because we can affect others with our voice. We can open the minds and hearts of others with our words. And we can do that with intention. We can do that for the good of animals. And that is a power that we alone as human beings have. You know, when I was young, I never played with dolls. I don't know about you guys, but for me, that wasn't a thing at all, ever. I played with model horses. So I had all these little horses, and I loved playing outside and imagining that they were all wild. And I had like probably 10 model horses because that was the only thing I wanted for Christmas and my birthday every year. So I had a whole ton of them. And I would go out and I'd create these herds with my horses and these adventures out in my yard. So there was a herd that was up on the hill, and there was a herd that was under the tree, and there was a herd that lived in the grass, and that was their meadow where they were grazing. And so I made up all these stories of these wild horses. And every time I played with the horses, they always spoke just as a human would with our human language. For me, that's English. And so they would always be talking to one another and having these adventures. And it really didn't seem strange to me that they spoke like that. Because when I was little, ever since I have been small, and even before I can remember, I found some old journals from when I was about 7 or 8. And I was writing about how animals think and what they're thinking and how they're feeling, and I'm like, "Oh, my cat felt this today." And so I always heard them speak even though they didn't use words. I always heard animals speak. And so it was very normal to me when I was playing horses that they would be speaking with human voices. But I realized as I got older that I think, you know, um, most people couldn't seem to hear animals the way that I could. It was as if because they weren't speaking in a language like we do, talking, that people assumed they had no thoughts, no feelings. And I wondered, do they really not hear animals, or are they choosing to ignore the animals? I wasn't really sure as I grew up. But, as a child, realizing how people don't hear animals, it struck me as very strange. And I was thinking from pretty young age how I could speak and people could hear me. And what if I used my voice to share with people how animals are feeling from my perspective? And so I think that if we set our intention to do this. Our human voices can be used to cultivate and deepen healing with heartful and mindful intention. When we speak in this way, we can manifest love and light in the world for the animals. Well, even though all of us humans, most of us, we do have words to speak to one another, but not all of us use these words for good. Not all of us use words with loving intention and compassion. And I want to talk a little bit about what that might look like tonight, because as we tune in to the wisdom of our hearts and then we give voice to that wisdom, it's really important that we align our words to that inner truth and we keep our vibration positive. So the words we use should be positive. We want to use our words wisely to create deeper awareness in others, to inspire more love and compassion for all beings. I want to share a quote from Francis of Assisi. Not to hurt our humble brethren is our first duty to them, but to stop there is not enough. We have a higher mission to be of service to them whenever they require it. Animal Reiki is really all about being of service to animals, isn't it? And so, sometimes it can feel difficult to find our voice and to use that voice to be of service. And so let's take a moment and let's think about what are those things that are blocking us from really finding our voice and using our voice for the good of animals. One of the challenges is the fear of going against society's norms. So most of us are raised to believe that animals don't have feelings, or some might have feelings and are worthy of compassion, like maybe the dogs and cats that live with us in our house. But then other animals aren't capable of feeling and they're just products for consumption. So maybe farm animals, for example. And so as we're growing up in a society that teaches these values, and then as we practice animal Reiki, our experience in our animal connections and meditations helps us widen this circle of compassion, even perhaps beyond what we expected. Wow, I never thought that I would have this soulful, amazing connection with a chicken. I just never thought of it. And it's happening in my animal Reiki world, so we can find our circle of compassion is widening. And now maybe we are seeing the world a little bit differently than we were raised. I think that we have an opportunity as animal Reiki practitioners to share the sacredness that we are sensing in animals, that we are sensing in species that we never thought of, that would have this kind of depth and wisdom and sacredness. And we're discovering it. So remember, you deserve to share and express your feelings and thoughts, even if they are unique, and that can be difficult sometimes. I think for me, one of the kind of funny and difficult conversations I often have surrounds being vegan. And in fact, it just happened to me the other day. So I met somebody and then they said, "Oh, you're vegan." And then their first question was, "How do you get your protein?" and I've heard that so many times. And it's such a funny question. And I'm like, "Oh, everywhere, like so many different places." And they're like, "Really?" So I'm like, yeah, yeah. And I think sometimes the best way or my favorite way of having this conversation is by making people vegan food, delicious vegan food, and sitting down and sharing it and seeing the scrumptiousness on their face, the happiness on their face. And then it's a way for me to create a space of understanding and positivity, around that conversation, which really helps because everybody loves delicious food, right? And we can actually do that in a way that is also affirming and positive for animals. Wow. So for me, when I think about this obstacle of society's norms, that's kind of been a way that I've found my voice is by becoming a really good cook of vegan food. It helps start the conversation. I think another fear that we often stops us from speaking our truth and finding our voice is we're afraid to say it wrong. And sometimes, so then we're like, oh, I don't know what to say. So we don't say anything. And then we think, oh, it almost feels like I'm agreeing because I'm not saying anything. And so I really encourage you guys to risk that fear of, oh, what if I don't say it right? And voice what you feel, because even if you're met with not the most positive response, at least you spoke out, you know? And so, you know, the example that I often think of is, sometimes people they might just not know a better way of doing things. And for me, this often happens around dogs, because I have a dog. I walk him out in the world every day, and we meet a lot of people with dogs as well. And a lot of people are very harsh with their dogs. And so we'll come upon and they'll be, very punishing, very harsh, because their dog is like lunging, wants to come over, or and so there's a lot of that. And so, me being me, wanting to find a positive way, I will sometimes give people a little training tip in that moment. And for example, like, oh, you know what really works for me? I'll bring really yummy treats that my dog loves, and then I'll distract them when other dogs walk by. It's fun for them. They get treats, and then they start to associate other dogs with treats. So then, when your dog sees another dog, instead of lunging at the leash, they look at you for their treat, and it's so amazing when that happens. you know, do I always say it perfectly? Maybe not, but I feel like I'm trying to plant seeds of positivity from my own experience. I've been that person on the other end of the leash with the dog lunging in the past. I know how that feels. So it's sometimes, you have little opportunities to share something positively with somebody that can help them treat their animals better. Another fear that we often have is the fear of the disapproval of others. And so, I'm going to shift a little bit from like animal positivity into like the subject of animal Reiki. Oh, it's so scary. Like, what if I tell people I do animal Reiki? They're going to disapprove. They're going to think it's weird. Maybe they don't understand what it is. And so, here's my advice for you for leaning into that fear. I want you to take a moment and just think about why animal Reiki is so important to you. Maybe it was the beginning of a self healing path for you that you never thought you would have. Maybe it helped you bond more deeply with animals in your life than you ever thought possible. Maybe it healed you of compassion fatigue in your work with shelter animals. Maybe it was your anchor in the toughest time of your life as your animal passed away. But take the time and tune into the whys around your personal animal Reiki practice and why you feel passionate about it. And those stories, those experiences can be a path to align your voice to. So as you speak, it comes from your heart and it comes from those amazing experiences. And the energy that you create as you speak that heart truth that you're so passionate about, it is a positive and meaningful vibration for everybody around us. I have had experiences where total skeptics have softened and become curious when I've told one of my stories. It's really important, and our animal Reiki practice helps us with this, but we want to be true to our way of being in the world for the good of animals. To be happy in our lives, we have to live authentically and in alignment with our core values. We're always trying to live up to what other people think we should do and say about animals. You know, we will never be happy. Our happy vibration radiates from us effortlessly if we align it with our heart. One of my favorite techniques in animal Reiki to help us tune into that inner sort of core soul energy, our inner wisdom, our inner happiness, is the healing space meditation. And you can find this on my YouTube channel, the Animal Reiki Source YouTube channel. I have a free guided meditation there. It's not only helpful in supporting animals, it helps us ground, center ourselves, and be more fully in our truth so we can begin to find our voice. So, as we begin to find our voice, here are some tips for compassionate communication. It's not easy. We might not be perfect in this all the time, but it is something to stay mindful of and work on. One of the things that's really helpful is to use I statements and share your own personal experiences. Just like I was talking about, that training tip I was giving an example of. I've been there. I totally get it. And this is what worked for me rather than you shouldn't do that, right? We're using I statements. We're sharing our experience. We're looking for common ground between us and people who are going through something. Another thing is to acknowledge people's feelings and be curious about their lived experience. Even if it's not something that you necessarily understand, it doesn't hurt to ask questions and really listen to their answers. And even if, let's say, you're not agreeing with them, you can say something compassionate like, I hear what you're saying. So it shows that you're really listening to them. And then that doesn't take away from your own truth to listen to somebody else. So, really recognizing and acknowledging people's lived experience and their emotions. Choose your words carefully to avoid causing hurt feelings. And keep in mind, compassionate communication has a higher goal of building a bridge with the person, not trying to win an argument because you don't agree with them and they should, come over to your way of thinking. Think of it more as a way, let's build a bridge here. And when people actually open up and share with you, even when it may not be your lived experience, you can practice gratitude. Like, thank you for sharing that with me. And of course, offer positive tips and encouragement when education seems possible. But then you just have to let it go and realize everybody makes their own decisions in the end. So now we have our animal Reiki practice. We want to come in alignment with our voice. We want to be able to listen to our inner truth so that we can speak it and create bigger change in the world. How can our animal Reiki practice help us do that? Through the experiences we have with the animals in that practice. So, my biggest piece of advice for finding your voice: practice, 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 because every experience you have with an animal in your practice is going to help you ground, center, find clarity, and see what it is you're like tuning into this moment, and you're really learning about lessons from animals about healing, about love, about kindness, about resilience, about patience. Oh my gosh, animals teach us all these things. So only through the experiences. So practice, practice, practice. Also, when we get more and more experiences, we have more and more stories, and then we can use that compassionate communication. Oh, I had this experience. So we could share our knowledge through stories. And I think that by sharing a personal story of an animal and the amazing wisdom they showed, or the amazing healing they experienced, or something that they brought to your life, how they helped heal you, these kind of amazing stories, this can really touch people's hearts and open people's minds. And maybe they have never thought about kindness to this animal or that animal, or they never thought animals have this kind of depth. But when they hear the story, it might spark something. You're planting a seed, you know? The energetic vibration of love and compassion is contagious. So spread your joy, what you love about animals, what you love about your animal Reiki practice, and it will expand the healing. Another tip that I have for you to help you find your voice is volunteer your time at shelters and sanctuaries. Not only will you meet like-minded people there who also want to be of service to animals, but you will have more and more experiences of animals healing and resilience that is going to teach you so much about why you love animal Reiki and why you're so amazed and committed to animals. But whatever you choose to do to advocate for animals, the most important thing our practice reminds us of is being a kind and compassionate person. And in this way, we are shining our light as an example for other humans and a beacon of hope for our animal friends. And remember, finding your voice for animals doesn't require perfection, it only requires heart. So every time you choose to speak, speak with love, share a story, offer a kind word in support of animals. And each time you do that, you're making an amazing difference in the world. So keep speaking, keep practicing, and trust that your voice is a light the world truly needs. All right. So that is my little talk for tonight. Before I open it up to you guys for any sharing or questions, you can type those in the chat or you can unmute yourself if you're here on the call with me. Um, I want to congratulate all of the recipients of the 2025 Dakota Scholarship. I offer this scholarship for level 1 or 2 training every year. And this year we had about 25 recipients from all over the world. These are people who could otherwise not afford a certification training. I'm offering this completely free of charge to all these people. And I was inspired. The application was really all about the difference that people want to make in the world for animals. And I was so moved. Normally, I choose maybe 5 people a year for this, but I was so moved by everyone's story and what they want to do with this training and how they want to help the world and help animals and help all beings that I was like, oh, I have to give all these people the scholarship. And so the scholarship really widened and opened up this year. And we are beginning the training next week. I'm really excited for all of these wonderful, amazing animal advocates to be learning the Let Animals Lead method of Animal Reiki and to learn these tools and techniques that are going to help them help even more animals than they already are. So I'm super excited. Congratulations, everybody who won the Dakota Scholarship this year. If you missed it this time around, stay tuned. I always announce it in the May newsletter, announce winners in the June newsletter. So stay tuned next spring for the next round. And who knows, you may be chosen in the future. All right, so now I will open it up. If anyone has comments or questions or anything to share in our world of animal Reiki, I invite you to. You can raise your hand, you can unmute yourself, you can type in the chat, whatever you like. Everybody's quiet tonight. That's okay. All right. Then let's finish tonight with our animal healing circle. I like to do this every month using the Hara breathing technique that I teach in level 1 Animal Reiki. It's also the breathing technique that is in the healing space meditation that I referenced earlier. You can find it on my YouTube channel. And it is one of the foundational techniques of Animal Reiki that helps us get present in this moment, ground ourselves, and create a peaceful, open, compassionate energy that draws animals in. So let's offer this to the animals on our minds and hearts tonight. So let's go into Gasho, palms together. And let's take a moment to set our intention. let's dedicate all the energy of this practice to our animals. We invite them to share this space with us if they wish, but it's completely up to them. And we'll rest our hands on our lap. And now I want you to visualize your breath as a pure and clear light. And as you breathe in, this light comes in through the crown and fills your body with light, moving all the way down to the lower belly, the hara. And then as you exhale, imagine that light expands like a gentle mist out of your skin into your aura and into the universe. So breathing in the light, filling your body, connecting with the belly, and breathing out, expanding this light. Breathing in and breathing out. Find your own rhythm. Breathe in the light. Breathe all the way down to the belly. Breathe out the light. Expand it all around you. Breathing in and breathing out. Just do a few breaths at your own pace. And then relax your breath and just see yourself sitting in this beautiful space of light. The light within and the light all around you. And this light is filled with peacefulness and calm. You feel very grounded and centered in your being. And this light is filled with compassion, loving kindness, perfect harmony. And this light has its own vibration, which is so inviting to animals. Our animals are so sensitive. They always sense the energy that we are creating and radiating. And so imagine how now, with our intention, we're creating this really positive, beautiful, open, and inviting, gentle energy. Imagine how that must feel to them. So imagine you're just sitting in this bubble of light and goodness. And it's like a beautiful invitation to your animals. They can sense and feel it. And if they want to connect, they can, but it's completely up to them. We're not beaming anything, we're not sending anything. Just let go and just shine. And we invite the animals to step into the light if they wish. And whatever animals are on your mind and heart today are just perfect. And each animal that appears in your mind and heart, like an invitation. I invite you. I invite you. No expectations, no pushing, just being the light with joy and inviting the animals to step in if they wish. And just feel yourself just being the light, being peace, being harmony, being compassion, just embodying that vibration. And if distracting thoughts come up, just let them go like clouds floating by and come back to the light, to the peace, calm, harmony of the light. And we know that in this light, all is well. And the animals feel that. And bringing our hands back into Gasho. And just take a moment to thank your animals. However, they chose to connect in this moment was just perfect. And setting your intention to finish, take a nice deep breath, slowly come back and open your eyes. And just take a moment and tune in to that little shift that your energy just had through that little short practice. How easy it is to shift into that beautiful peacefulness that is so good for our animals when we can interact with them from this place, right? All right. Well, I hope that tonight's talk was food for thought for all of you. And thank you all for being here and blessings, everybody. May the animals light your way on the journey. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye.